Hey guys, Dishsoap here with the 13.19B Legend and Comp tier list. I know you guys are probably sick of me saying this, but currently rank 1 with like almost a 200 LP gap on the patch. Let's just jump right into it. And if you want to reference these comps during game, then I'd like to introduce you to the Mobalytics TFT overlay. You get access to the best team comps by challenger experts, myself included, directly in-game. There are also full guides attached to each comp, as well as automatic augment data and an item cheat sheet. Click the link in the description to download. For Legends, here it is. Gonna be Poro and S tier. A tier is gonna be Ezreal and Urf. B tier is gonna be almost everything else. And then C tier, Draven, Aesol, TK, nothing in D. Last week, or last video, I guess, I wanna be honest, I kind of missed on the Legend tier list. Not by that much. I just underestimated how consistent Yi was. I put Yi in B tier last time, but it probably should have deserved S tier with Ornn. I just misread the strength of Gotta Go Fast and some of the comps it was in, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not always perfect on my predictions, but I feel pretty good about this one, at least right now. In S tier, we have Poro. The reason why is because in the recent patch, basically every single Legends 3-2 and 4-2 augment got nerfed like pretty severely, and almost none of them are takeable anymore. So that gives Poro a huge edge because you get basically 2 extra augment choices on 3-2 and 4-2. And the only reason you would want to run a Legend is for consistency on 2-1, which is valuable. And depending on your playstyle, it could be the correct choice over Poro. But I think optimally, if you know how to play like a lot of different stuff, a lot of different things, I think Poro is optimal. In A tier, we do have Ezreal. I think Ezreal is very strong for the comps that want like lots of items and carry multiple things. Xayah, comps like Strategist Azir, sometimes Noxus. A lot of those can benefit from just having a bunch of extra components, and Buried Treasures gives that to you. The problem with Ezreal, again, is just that you're down an augment slot on 3-2, 4-2. They even nerfed Well-Earned Comforts, which was kind of a reason to play Ezreal in the past. At least the prismatic one, and now that one's just not very good. Urf is going up to A tier. I think with the meta and like balance changes, a lot of emblems became a lot better. For instance, I think the Demacia emblem went from very bad to very good this patch. Noxus emblem's always solid. Okay, I'm kind of blanking on which ones you want. Oh yeah, you want Ionia. Ionia is the big one. Yeah, Ionia is like the best emblem in the game now. So yeah, that's kind of why Urf's in A tier. If you can high roll an Ionia spot, you're chilling. Same problem as all the other legends. You're down to 3-2, 4-2. Caitlyn is very close to A tier, but the reason I put her down in B is because in the specific B patch, they nerfed Samira. If they did not nerf Samira, I probably would have put Caitlyn in A tier, because the tempo of being able to take Samira and either reroll Samira or just like use that to push levels is actually really good. But they nerfed Samira and also Cho'Gath, so I'm gonna put her in B because reroll is just slightly less powerful. Yi in B as well. I honestly don't think it's very good after the Gotta Go Fast nerf, but Battle Ready got untouched. That augment was solid, and maybe I'm overreacting to the nerfs. I'm just gonna give it the concession and put it in B tier. Bard in B as well. It's basically fills the exact same niche as Ezreal. I just think Ezreal does it better. Buried Treasures on average is just going to be better than Bard's augments, even the prismatic one, since I believe Ezreal's prismatic got a buff in the set. Lee in B as well. In my opinion, I think Caitlyn is better than Lee even for reroll. He's not that much worse, so I'll just put him in B. Who cares? Pingu in B. I mean, I would never play him, but I don't know. It's not that bad for stuff like Kale, I guess. Kale's a little bit more playable this patch. And obviously Piltover. That's just not my playstyle. Same with TF. Forcing Biz can be a way to like ignore navigating the item system. I just think, in my opinion, I don't really value that, but I'm sure some people do. Ornn in B as well. I could honestly see this going up to A. I might be overreacting to the Ornn item nerfs, but basically in the last patch they nerfed like most of the Ornn items, and they also nerfed Ornn's 3-2 augment, which makes them a lot weaker on average, but realistically, just getting an Ornn item might just be good enough on 2-1, so I don't think it's a bad option. I mean, I might as well just put him like right here or something. Sure. Vlad in B, honestly, I don't think it's that good, but I don't think it's that bad either. Transfusion's kind of mid, Battle Ready's good, Ascension's bad, but maybe there's some hidden Vlad comp. I mean, there's no hidden Vlad comp. What you would play with Vlad is like Azir Strategist or like Bastion Aphelios. I don't think those comps really... I mean, I know Bastion Aphelios wants Vlad, but I don't think that comp is very good. So that's why I put him in B. Veigar, not gonna lie, I don't know why he's here. I mean, sure, I'll put him in C. I don't know why you would play Veigar, because Jewel Lotus on 2-1 is just too low tempo. Ascension is bad. And then Tiny Power is okay. I feel like I would rather just take a random augment than Tiny Power. Draven in C as well. If you high roll Spoils of War, it can be insane, but it's just not very consistent, and his 3-2, 4-2 are dead. He's the high roll but not consistent legend. Kind of same with Aesol, although... yeah, I don't know. He got like nerfed really heavily. I put him in like B-Chid like the past couple of lists, but that was just because he was playable in set 9. After all the nerfs, like he's probably not good. Same with Kench. He's just like rich get richer, and all the econ augments are just worse than your random augments that you can get usually. So no real point to play him. Anyways, going into the team comps. First in S tier, we're going to be talking about Ionia Vanquishers. This is I believe like in my last tier list, I know there might have a clip for this. I talked about this comp and I said it was like just on the cusp of being meta. Oh yeah, I think this comp has potential. Like one small Xayah buff probably pushes this into like A or maybe even S tier. And I was completely right. They did like a small Vanquisher buff, a Xayah mana buff, and that's all it took to make this comp S tier. I believe it's like the sole S tier comp right now, just because of its consistency. The best version by far is when you get an Ionia emblem, because it lets you put 6 Ionia for Vanquisher on level 7, and you Ionia spat your Ashe, and then you move it to Nyla later. BIS is going to be LW on Xayah, and then you go for 3 Shen items. The best one in this meta is Bramble by far for the mirror. You need that Bramble crit resistance against the Vanquisher trait. Like the rest of the Xayah items are like whatever. You can put any AD, any crit on her. She's gonna do fine. Just remember to get the Last Whisper down. And Nyla just gets your leftovers with Ionia spat, ideally. And another variation of the comp that is really, really good, it's probably better if you can hit, but it's just inconsistent, is the Ionia Ashe reroll. You only play this from Ionia spat opener, and then you reroll Ashe and set on like level 6 or 7, depending on like what you natural and stuff. Like if you're natural, like your Shen, your Xayah on your roll down, you might as well just push levels to 7 and then roll on 7. But if you don't really hit that stuff, you can keep on 6 and roll for set 3 Ashe 3. You need the Ionia spat because same thing as last comp. Last time you can't fit 6 Ionia for Vanquisher otherwise, and I think Ashe is just too weak if you're not Ionia spatting her. This on Ashe is going to be DB LW, and then you just go for tank items and set. Later into the game, you can duo carry your Xayah, and yeah, the comp's good. The only problem with this comp is that Ashe is so meta that in most lobbies, hitting set 3, hitting Ashe 3 is not going to be a possibility. So if you're like close to contested at all, I would just pivot off of this game plan and play the last comp I just showed you, just the standard Ionia Vanquishers. But if somehow you're just uncontested in like some alternate reality lobby or something, this comp is very good. It's probably even better. You just can't hit. So those are the 2 sole S tier comps. In A tier, I guess we'll start with Legendary Flex. Personally, this comp is just super unreliable, but I mean, if you can hit it, it's good. I mean, I say this every single time. It's still going to be your standard Ahri Bel'Veth duo carry, Shen tank. Yeah, this is just like what you play when you high roll like infinite econ, infinite win streak, or like level up early. Yeah, nothing really has changed. In the flex slot, GP's the flex slot. You can play like double Scion, you can play Rise if the Rise is good, but I kind of like GP for the CC immunity, and it's also like a third carry you can itemize. They did add a new Heimer upgrade. I think it's called like Refracto Beam or something. I don't remember. Don't buy it. It sucks. Just stick to the standard shrinks, burns, and repairs and golds. I don't think from what I've seen, I don't think there's any reason to buy the Refract upgrade. But yeah, I thought I'd just mention that. Next in A tier is going to be Strategist Azir. This comp would probably be in B tier if they didn't buff Azir in the last second of the B patch. They buffed Azir by like 15% or something. It was a really, really big buff. The standard idea, like the comp doesn't really change at all. I'm not really a believer in like vertical Shurima. I think if you have like double Shurima spat and like you hit a Cassante, it can be okay, but otherwise, I'm just not a fan. I'll go for Silco Azir duo carry, but the main prio is 3 items on Nasus, and then you always ascend Nasus, don't forget. And I mean, I don't like this comp is not nearly as good as Xayah, but the thing is, in some of these lobbies, there's like 4 to 5 Xayah players, so if you can just hit this Azir comp for free, then I don't know, you might still be able to get like a 3rd or a 4th. The Ice Azir is going to be Shiv Nashor's +1. I like Guardbreaker, but you can go whatever. Blue buff Morello Silco, last item doesn't matter. Just make sure you have 3 items on Nasus. Bramble is essential in this meta. Make sure you prio it against the Vanquisher boards. And then yeah, A tier comp. Next is gonna be Noxus Tempo in A tier. They nerfed Samira, but she's still a solid opener. And you can do like the Swain, Cassio, Nefiri, Samira opener. If you have like a Noxus spat and then pivot into this. Okay, I have double Mord on this board just to like show the 2 different builds. Don't actually play double Mord. You can play like on level 8, you can play like a Jarvan, you can play a Heimerdinger, you can play like a Nefiri for 2 Darken, you can play an Azir if you have items for Azir. But I'm showing you the before you hit Aatrox, you can play Kiana or Slayer. 2 builds for Mord are going to be like the RFC build. I don't know where you're getting 5 bows from, but like, hey, I mean, you don't have to do Nash, you can do like Guardbreaker or something. But it's gonna be like the RFC build or the QSS build. The RFC build is probably better. The thing is, it's just so many bows, so it's unrealistic. And the QSS build uses a like wide variety of components, so it's much easier to go for, and no one really wants Cloak, so you can usually get the QSS down. But you need either QSS or RFC because like melee carries can't really operate without either CC immunity or extra range because they're just gonna get CC'd. But yeah, Noxus win streak into level 7, roll down for 1 Mord. After you hit 1 Mord, you can push level 8 for like the Aatrox, the Scion, the Heimer. And then if you hit early enough, you can push 9, maybe get 9 Noxus in if you get 2 spats, if you get lucky, and just level for more 5 costs. It's decent comp. I do think it like kind of requires the Noxus emblem to be consistent at all, because it's like you can't get 7 Noxus that easily without it. Next is going to be Sejuani Xayah. This is an A tier. This is what you play on Xayah if you do not have an Ionia spot. So instead of playing 6 Ionia, we're playing 3 Ionia. We're just playing better units. We're playing Sejuani, which is actually a better tank than Shen, if you can believe it, at least at 3 Ionia. You're playing a Sign for extra CC, and we could even fit stuff like Heimer. The downside is that 6 Ionia is cracked, so it's just worse. But I don't know. If you're playing ahead of tempo, you never found an Ionia spot, this is something you can aim for. Obviously, you can roll for this comp on 7, you just drop the Heimerdinger. Heimer is good. BIS is going to be the same thing. You can't, like, theoretically, BIS Nyla is going to be like double RFC or something, but you need to go for a Last Whisper in the first place. And if you need to go for a Last Whisper, it's like extremely hard to get double bow or like 4 bows. And I don't even think like single RFC Nyla is that good, so you just give her the leftovers. Go for Last Whisper Prio, 3 tank items, and then give leftovers to Xayah and Nyla. Yeah, I mean, the comp's good, it's just not as good as the Ionia version. Next is Double Trouble Nico Soraka. Only play this when you have the Double Trouble augment, don't do it otherwise, of course. You're level 6 board, you're gonna slow roll this board until you get Soraka, then you can push levels for like a second Taric after you hit Soraka. This is gonna be your board, you're gonna play 2 Nikos, 2 Sorakas, Milio for Ishtal, and Invoker, and Taric for Bastion Targon. Don't do these exact 2 builds. I'm just showing off the 2 Nico builds. The left one, the full crit build, I would only recommend this if you have the Wood Ishtal. I do think the Wood Ishtal is the best, and it's like one of the reasons you would play this, because the Wood one gives you stacking HP, and if you stack enough HP, you don't really need to go for defensive stats, right? Your Nico's gonna have like enough health anyways. So you go for this full damage build, and it can like one-shot frontline, and it's kind of crazy. But if you don't have exactly Wood, she's not going to be tanky enough, and I would just go for something like this with any other Ishtal. I think this comp in particular is playable with any, because you could just put Soraka in a backline hex, and if you get like ice, wood, or stone or something, you could put Nico in it. This comp's very good. It just requires double trouble. This one, if you have anything but wood Ishtal, this one if you have wood, and you carry Soraka and Nico. Good comp. Next comp is going to be Fiora Kaisa Duo. I think this is only A tier when you have combat augments, and I would only play this comp with combat augments. And what I mean by combat augments is stuff like Gifts of the Fallen, Long Distance Pals, stuff like Healing Orbs is good, and like just those type of augments. Harm Assist. Just stuff that can like do a little bit of extra damage and sustain your team. BIS Fiora is going to be BT Titans, and then you go for the Demacia item, which is Radiant Starex. Comp becomes a lot better if you have Aatrox. If you're on level 7 though and you're forced to roll, drop the Aatrox, drop the Heimer because you don't hit, and you play Nasus. If you believe it or not, Aatrox 1 is better than Nasus 2. So if you find 1 Aatrox, you're selling him. You're selling Nasus, and you keep Jarvan. BIS Fiora, BT Titans, and then Kaisa is just full damage. This comp got a lot less consistent with the Yi nerf, because now, like, Gotta Go Fast is not that good anymore, so you're just down a guaranteed really, really good combat augment for your comp. And they also, like, slightly nerf Fiora, so this comp is, like, kind of inconsistent now, but it's also less contested. If you hit for free, it's, like, you can still top 4. And if you have, like, the Exodia augment setup, you could definitely still play for top 2. Next in A is going to be Piltover Gunners. I would only recommend this from Piltover Opener. I do not think it's very good without it. You're just going to be going for Piltover, Sejuani tank with 4 Gunner. Obviously, Graves over GP before you hit him. You can carry Jinx 2, Jace 2 before you hit Aphelios 2. Aphelios 1 is not very good. And you could also like roll for like Jinx 3, Jace 3 if you natural them. But I think without Piltover, you usually don't have enough resources and frontline to compete with the other comps, because Jace and Jinx got nerfed pretty hard. So yeah, I would only recommend this from Piltover. If you don't have Piltover start and you have AD components, I would just hard force Xayah. Even if you're contested, it's going to be better than this comp if you don't have Piltover. Next in A tier is going to be Sorc Flex. Again, only recommend this if you have a Sorc emblem. The comp is really, really hard to fit in otherwise. Ignore the Swain items. I will talk about them later. I'm showing you the Ahri version right now. If you don't hit Ahri, you can obviously drop the Karma and play like cast, like the cheap version is like Malzahar over Ahri, cast it in over Swain, and then you play Multicaster over Karma. And like maybe you roll for like Vel'Koz 3 in that instance. But if you have Ahri, like even Ahri 1, Silco 2, it's better to pivot into something like this, because Shin gives you a lot of frontline and Ahri is just really good. The Swain items is, or if you have exactly the Demon Flare augment. My eyes were opened up to this augment recently. I think people were misplaying it before. You actually do not want to play this with Noxus or like Strategist or something. You want to play this with vertical Sorcs. What you want to do is like on level 6, roll for like this board. I'm just talking about Demon Flare as like a tangent. Roll for like, this is 4 Sorc, 3 Void, and like Soraka for Targon to keep your Swain alive. Demon Flare scales the best out of a Sorc, because Sorc just gives you more damage than what Noxus gives you. And the Sorc units are just usually better utility than Noxus units. And BIS Swain for Demon Flare is going to be BT Titan's Vow. Vow can be Redemption, it can be Declaw, it can be Crown Guard. I think Crown Guard is better than the other two. And I think Vow is better than Crown Guard, but just depends what you hit. BT Titan's Vow, I think, is BIS because the Vow, like, just getting the starting mana on him is so important. It gets you to, like, second, third cast Sway faster, and then your Swain will start, like, one-shotting everything. Roll for Swain 3 on level 6, and then on level 7, you drop the Sorc and play, like, 6 Sorc or something. But yeah, I think Demon Flare is, like, probably around A tier as well. But yeah, I just want to talk about both versions because they're very similar. But yeah, just don't play Noxus with Demon Flare. Play Sorcs. Next, we have Cho Bitem. This comp got quite a few nerfs recently, so it's only I wouldn't like hard force this from like random openers. I would only play this if you have like a lot of Cho'Gaths and a decent augment for him, but he can still pop off in the right scenarios. BIS is going to be Declaw, Bramble, Redemption, and you want to ideally you get a Bruiser +1 so you can find 6 Bruiser earlier, but you want to get 6 Bruiser and ASAP. The default quote-unquote carry is Cassio, just because she's like a 1 cost and she's better than Malzahar. But if you don't hit Cassios, you can also do Malzahar. You can sometimes do like Milio Cassio. But if you don't, like, if you hit like Cho'Gath 3 and nothing else, you don't have to roll for these other 1 costs. You can just push levels. You can carry Azir, you can carry Kaisa. Sometimes you can carry Mordekaiser. If you high roll ass off like me, you can play Ari. If it's like Zon Rise and you high roll that, you can play Zon Rise's backline. You can play Silco's backline. There are so many different options for carry in this comp. So the only important thing really is getting Cho'Gath and rushing to 6 Bruiser. But yeah, very good comp still, just not as consistent. That's why it's an A tier, not S. Next in A tier is going to be 4 Rogue Graves. Importantly, I would like, I think for 4 Rogue, the only version I actually like is the version where you roll for Graves first. The reason for that is that, like, Kiana 2, like, the 2-star rogues don't really stabilize you on level 6. Like, they do stabilize you, they just don't stabilize you long enough to be able to go for, like, 3-star Cat, 3-star Echo, 3-star Kiana most of the time. So you kind of need the 3-star Graves early to, like, just save enough HP and money to actually be able to go for the other stuff. So yeah, I only recommend this if you start with a lot of Graves, you have Graves items, you can go for Graves 3 on, like, 3-1, 3-2. Temple the lobby out with that, and then slow roll for the other rogues. But yeah, this Graves is going to be like BT Night Harvester Titans. You can also go Starks for any of these items. And if you get like AP crit items, you can put them on Cat or Echo. I like Katarina more, but if you have like Echo 3, Cat 2, like obviously put them on Echo. And then Kiana uses like the exact same Graves items as Graves. So there's that. Obviously you want to play Jinx, and then your last slot can be, it can be Ishtal, it can be Rogue, or it can be Slayer like Quinn or Mord. It can also just be like another like Cat 2 or Echo 2 that's always solid. So yeah, just go for Graves through early, tempo into 4 rogues, slow for the other ones. Late game you want to be going into stuff like Aatrox, Heimer, but that's like pretty obvious, right? And that's going to be it for A tier. And then in B tier, we have a few comps. We have Bastion, Nika reroll. I would only like words of warning. I think this is only good with exactly Wood Ishtal, the one that gives you scaling HP. Maybe there's potential with doing this on like a different Ishtal and going like the tank Nico build I showed earlier for Double Trouble. I think that maybe has potential. I just think the Wood version is just like the best by far. But you just go for 4 Bastion, 4 Invoker. Your level 7 is just this without Ari. And if you're close to 3 stars, you can just roll on 7 for like 3-star Nico, 3-star Soraka, maybe 3-star Karma, Tarek. But if not, you can push levels for Ari, cast it over Cassandra before you hit. I've done okay with this comp with Wood exactly. Like the Nico just one-shots everything. But I have not done well with it if it's not Wood. So just words of warning. That's why it's in B tier. Ravenous as well. Comp got nerfed. I also like, personally, I think this comp sucks, but I've seen it have enough success and like people keep telling me it's good. So it's probably good in like low elo still. Like even after nerfs, but ideally you just get 6 Juggernaut, Silco Duo carry. If you don't have a Juggernaut spat, you can just play 4 Juggernaut. And yeah, go for Ginsu BT QSS. Ideally you get like the Morello Blue of Silco. You can have like Jinx hold Silco items sometimes. She's like not the worst Morello holder. 7 Bilgewater in B tier. There's an argument for this being an A tier, honestly. I could see it. It's very, very good when you have Rising Infamy, I think. Like the Bilgewater one that gives you like gold from chests. I think it like a requirement to play this is either Rising Infamy or a Bilgewater spot, but it's the same comp that terrorized the meta week like day 1, day 2. Just 7 Bilge, go for RFC, Edge Knight Nyla, go for like blue buff MF, even Shroud on Nautilus. I think the best 2 units you can play with you when you have spat is Jarvan Aatrox. You can do Nasus before you hit Aatrox, but yeah, priority standard. I wouldn't be surprised if this comp is actually like A tier. The only problem though is that Right now, Nyla is very, very contested by all the Xayah players, so you might have like a really hard time hitting our 2-star. Next in B tier is going to be Demacia Kayle. Again, I think there's actually a solid argument for this being an A tier. I just haven't seen the comp enough. Kayle is a comp that I just like don't really know how to evaluate early. Like I need to see a lot more sample size before I'm convinced. But the gist of it is you go for Kayle 3 and Poppy 3 hyper roll. And then once you hit Kayle 3, like you don't even need to like greed for Poppy, but hopefully you hit her on the way. As soon as you hit Kayle 3, you just push levels to 7 and immediately go for 7 Demacia. It's a huge spike. It got buffed in the recent patch. Go for double Gensu Kayle. Tank items on Poppy 3. If you have Poppy 2, you can like remake it, go for like Galio or Jarvan tank. But ideally you have like 2 Demacia tanks, can be Jarvan, Galio, or Poppy. And then you have the Radiant item and Kayle. And if you have leftover like 80 items, they can go on Quinn or maybe Fiora sometimes. I think this comp has a lot of potential. I've seen it do really, really well, but also it's a comp that just seems kind of inconsistent to me. So I'll put it in B tier for now, but there's definitely an argument for it being an A tier. And then Samira, this would be S tier pre-B patch, but Samira got hit with the juicy fat 5 AD nerf, which makes champions really bad. Like it's a really big nerf people don't really understand still. So yeah, she goes from S tier to B tier, but if you have like a good enough opener for it, it probably is still solid. BI Samira is going to be like blue buff GS IE. Ideally, you get a Noxus bat, put it on Nefiri or Aatrox, go for tank items on Swain. Extra AP can go on Mordekaiser or Cassio 3. Extra AD can go on Nefiri if you have Nefiri 3. The comp really pops off if you have Swain 3 as well. The comp is probably still playable, even after nerf. But that's going to be all the comps. There are a few comps I like know about. I'm just like not sure if they're consistent / even real comps. Stuff like Bast Aphelios is like on my radar. Stuff like just Demacia Tempo's on my radar. Like 7 Demacia and you don't go for Kayle Reroll, you go for like Quinn, like Slayer, Flex. In my opinion, I don't think those comps are consistent enough to put in tier list. Everything I put here is fairly well tested and has a decent amount of sample size. And that's going to be it. Just a quick recap. Ionia Vanquishers, Ionia Ashe roll, Soul S tier comps, a bunch of A tier comps as well. Legendaries, Azir, Noxus Tempo, Sejuani Xayah, Double Trouble Nico Soraka, Fiora Kaisa Duo, Piltover Gunners, Sorc Flex, Cho Bitem, 4 Rogue Graves. B tier is going to be Bast Nico, Ravenous Hunter, 7 Bilge, 7 Demacia, Kayle, and Samira Reroll. And hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.